Hello, everyone. We're going to give it a few seconds so that people can get logged in for the webinar. Welcome. Hello, everyone. We're going to give it a few more seconds while people get logged in. All right. Good afternoon and welcome to the Indiana Youth Institute's webinar for creating a trauma-informed workplace as a staff-free training strategy. My name is Whitney Johnson and I am supporting the Strengthening Youth Programs Initiative here at IYI. Thank you for joining today's presentation. We are grateful to have the chance to connect as a community of Indiana youth workers who remain committed to meeting the needs of our youth and children. For those who are not familiar with IYI, our mission is to improve the lives of all Indiana children by strengthening and connecting the people, organizations, and communities that are focused on kids and youth. Listed here, you can see our vision that drives the work we do for Indiana youth. Before we begin, I'd like to share a few pointers that will help you engage with today's webinar. For any technical support issues, use the chat feature to send a message, and Erin Whitcomb, IYI's registration manager behind the scenes to assist you, will help you out. Use this feature to converse with the group as well. As an added bonus, you can download a copy of today's PowerPoint from the chat. We also encourage you to ask questions, so please use the Q&A feature for any that you may have. And you will get to as many as possible at the end of this webinar. Feel free also to upvote any great questions at the top. Later today, you will receive an email with a link to complete an evaluation of this webinar. Please take a few minutes to let us know your thoughts about today's presentation. And if you didn't receive that evaluation email, check your junk email as it may have been directed there. Once you complete the evaluation, you will be redirected to your certificate of participation. Like all of IYI's webinars, today's webinar will be posted on our website if you'd like to revisit a portion later or want to share the opportunity to listen in with partners. Our speaker today is Valshana Lucky. Valshana graduated from Central Michigan University with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. In 2009, she earned a Master of Science in Management from Indiana Wesleyan University and a certification in Nonprofit Executive Leadership from the University of Notre Dame. In 2016, Valshana became an Executive Journey Fellow. And in April of 2018, Valshana Lucky resigned from the University of Notre Dame and started Pendulum Consulting, LLC. She currently serves as the Executive Director of Self-Healing Communities. It is now my pleasure to turn it over to our speaker for today, Valshana Lucky.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Whitney. All right, I'm going to share my screen. I am going to start this time sharing that I would say I was nervous, but because I know some neurobiology, I know that this is pure excitement. Nervousness and excitement can feel the same in the body. And so you'll see a little bit of that when we go through this presentation shortly. I'm also really excited about it because I have been hoping and praying to present to this group of wonderful people since the grant was announced. You are my people. If I was in my previous role before I started Self-Healing Communities, I would have applied for this grant because that was my life. And everything that you all are doing in the state is really what has motivated me and encouraged me to do this work. At the foundation, I want you to know that I love neuroscience. For those who've heard me present before, you may have heard this. I came into the love for the brain, the love for neuroscience because of a family hereditary disease, a neurodegenerative disease called spinal cerebellum ataxia. And so I have family members who have suffered from mental illness due to a traumatic brain injury. And I have siblings and potentially nieces and nephews who may also have the same disease my mom had. So that brought me into this. And I hope that when you hear me talking about the neuroscience of all of this, that you will see yourself as a person who could be teaching on this. Self-Healing Communities is a movement, not an organization. And we invite all of you to share and talk about self-healing communities as if it was your own. Please claim it as your own. I'm here in this space today to talk about trauma-informed workplace for the purpose of staff retention. I was a supervisor, a visionary who understands what you all are facing, what the climate is very different. But I just want you to know that the things that I'm sharing, I always say, I don't want to just be a teacher, a speaker of this work, but a practitioner. So the sciences, the things that you will hear are meant to be lived, not just information transfer, okay? This QR code, for those who haven't checked it, it is a QR code to our website, and we have a number of resources available. And so today, just to give you some context, we are going to move really fast. For those, again, who may have been in presentations with me in Zoom or in person, you know I like to try to have an easy flow. We do some interactive stuff, but our time together will go fast. I have an hour, and I want to give you a lot of stuff to consider. Lots of goodness / neurobiology. When you hear me say goodness, I'm talking about the care of our well-being, our bodies, our nervous systems. I also want to encourage you, don't try to comprehend everything that I'm going to share today. I really want you to let the slides and my words kind of flow over you and see what connects to where you are right now in this moment. This is not a class. You're not going to be tested on it. You're going to be tested by life. So you want to think about what is connecting with you today. I also want to encourage you. Some of you all may have to multitask. I do want you to know and youth work, you have to be great at that, but I have learned there is no real multitasking. That is not how the brain operates. So if you can, try to be very present in this time together so that you can see what's speaking to you. And you'll be able to later on go back and look at the slides. And I'm also available so you can reach out to me for more conversation. Trauma-informed care is a journey. So we can't mandate trauma-informed. I am very fortunate to walk alongside a number of organizations who are diving into this again as a movement. We are encourage everybody to understand the foundation of what the trauma-informed care journey is, and then also the creation of the self-healing communities. They are one and the same in lots of ways, and you'll understand that shortly. And then I want to say thank you. And I hope that our time together will be a gift for you and your communities, because you are a gift. And I just really, again, want to say thank you. I'm happy and joyous to be in this space together. So really quickly, we're just going to take a look at what is trauma-informed care. What is that journey? And so this comes from Trauma-Informed Oregon. On our website, there is a trauma-informed workbook that you can take a look at. It is meant to be in connection to a series of workshops that we will likely be hosting again next year. but it does help to take a look at if you're in this work. The portion of the journey that I live in, that Self-Healing Communities lives in, is the first two, which is trauma aware and trauma sensitive. And so we tend to think about trauma responsive and trauma informed care organizations, but it is a journey. And I just want to encourage you all to take some time and have a conversation about where you are. I have worked with a number of organizations who they had the certifications and they're like, we're trauma informed. Then they start learning about these things and they're like, oh, we got to go back. And so I help them with creating atmosphere and how you can create a true culture and environment of trauma-informed care. So wherever you are on this, it is always necessary to continue to grow in your awareness and grow in your team's sensitivity to trauma. I want to highlight this because I was invited by Josh to present at this presentation. I created a presentation prior to this, but before I didn't have this name. It's called The Often Misstep on a Trauma-Informed Care Journey. I called this something else, but it was like, no, this whole title is necessary. And when I've done this across the state, and one of the slides is this, it says, spoiler alert, the care of you is the often misstep on the trauma-informed care journey. Oftentimes, when we think of trauma-informed care organizations, the reality is we think we can mandate trauma-informed policies. And so in that presentation, this is not that presentation. That presentation is very different from this, but this is the foundation of that presentation. And I just want you to make sure while you're in this, that you're truly thinking about the care of you. You're truly thinking about what are some things that you're hearing that you can say, oh, maybe I need to think about my upbringing. I need to think about what I've dealt with in the workplace, okay? So trauma-informed care and the self-healing communities model is created in response to ACEs. I know that even though Indiana has the ACEs, Indiana Coalition, we have so many things around ACEs, there are still so many people who do not know the ACEs research. And so one of the things I'd like to share here, California has done a very beautiful job with the way in which they have spread the knowledge of ACEs. They take a very different approach, just want you to know that, very different approach than what we're building here in Indiana. But their website is called thenumberstory.org. And I use it in the course that I teach at the University of Notre Dame. And I just want to encourage you, this research is necessary to understand in order to build a true trauma-informed care workplace. And here's the truth. For the purpose of a strategy for retention, for staff retention. And I hope that, again, as you see today, you'll understand why. Why is trauma-informed care a great strategy for retention? And you'll be clear on that. You cannot be a truly trauma-informed care organization in the state of Indiana and not take advantage of the model of self-healing communities. And so this is going to be intertwined today, but I just wanted to highlight that these two strategies, models are in response to the ACEs research. So Self-Healing Communities Collective, now we've gone through a couple of name changes. We were of Greater Michiana because we were very focused when we first started on this upper northern Indiana into Michigan area. So that's Greater Michiana. And then we built this relationship. We had our Michigan partners, people who are learning from us. And then we started, because of IYI and our relationship with IYSA, spreading this information across the state. So we dropped Greater and left Michiana. And now our board decided on us being the Self-Healing Communities collective, because we have partners across the nation now who are learning from us. And that was our intention. Our intention from the beginning was that we would create resources that the world could dive into neuroscience. There's a lot of neuroscience out here now, and a lot of it is TikToky. And it's not to the fidelity of what true neurobiology, what us as a species benefit from. Oftentimes there's a lot of capitalism worked into it. And so we really wanted to create resources that people across the world could benefit from diving into the neuroscience of resilience. And on here, you'll see our mission says the celebration of our collective strengths. Listen, if you know anything about me or heard me present before, you know I like food. You know I like fellowship, getting together. I am an introvert. I also love my quiet time. I'm a kind of extrovert, introvert. I'm sorry, extrovert, introvert. And so when I found that the model actually talks about the benefits, the neuroscience of celebration, I was like, oh yes, this is my jam. And so whenever we get dollars, I'm able to earmark dollars to celebrate people who are doing the work that you're doing and are helping. We call ourselves helping the helpers, celebrating the helpers. And so I love the work that I get to do. We are a social movement. And when you think about a movement, a social movement, we elevate this spectrum of prevention. And so you have these different tiers when you are doing a spectrum of prevention. And it is this journey. And so right here in the orange where it says changing organizational practices, that's building a trauma-informed care organization. So I wanted you to see the context. So today we're in this space talking about this changing of organizational practices while we're also enjoying all of the benefits here. And so this bottom tier, strengthening individual knowledge and skills, is what we always do. Whenever you see my name, whenever you see Self-Healing Communities, I hope you get ready for some vocabulary words. We're always trying to dive into building your knowledge and your skills around neurobiology. And so our goal is to teach everyone how to care for themselves and others, prioritizing the care of the nervous system. And I always say, but what is a nervous system? When you see another human, do you think of this? Do you realize all this is going on? And so this is our stress systems, our stress response systems. We have one stress response, but two systems. We have the endocrine system and we have the nervous system. And it is always on. It's always on. I love showing this picture, and I'll find a way to send the PDF out. I'll get it to Whitney or Josh. Here's the thing. Our nervous system is always on, even when we're sleeping, okay? And so when you think about your nervous system and you think about the fact that prolonged states in this pink area can create poor health. So when you talk about or think about staff retention, you have to think about, am I creating an environment that's keeping my staff in the fight-flight response? Or am I creating a space that, yes, we have to deal with some stresses, some situations, the people that we're serving, but am I creating an environment that is allowing them to move, complete the stress cycle, and move into the parasympathetic? And so when you're talking about building this trauma-informed care workplace, it is all about this image. When you talk about ACEs, ACEs showed us that what happened to us as children impacts our health and well-being. And they gave all of the science to support it. We now have the expanded ACEs research. So we know ACEs kind of got us in that mold to say, oh, wait. Let's look at what's happening with children. When they have these stressors, it's showing up when they're adults. Okay. And so the trauma-informed care workplace is critical to the well-being of communities. Again, I celebrate you. You are recipients of an amazing grant that has the intention of helping create strong, resilient communities, helping people heal. And so with that, you have to understand the nervous system and the need for connection. And when you see that need for connection, I'm talking about us as a species, as humans. We have needs that neuroscience has taught us. One of the things that Dr. Nancy Michael, who is the director of the neuroscience and behavior major at the University of Notre Dame, taught me from day one when we met is that neuroscience has answers, but they only keep it in the academy. They write papers for themselves and they talk about it with other neuroscientists. And listen, now that I am a part of this major, I also understand it is a different language, very different language. And sometimes I only can grab 2 or 3 words that I understand, but I keep growing. I keep learning. And so that was 10 years ago when her and I started diving into this, not with self-healing communities. Self-healing communities is only about 4 years old, but this work of science translation started long before that when I was in youth work as the youth director at the Robinson Center in South Bend. And so I just want you to understand, like, the body has expectations. So when you are thinking about your workplace, we got to think about the humans. So all of my degrees, except for the non-degree certification from the University of Notre Dame, are all in business and for profit. Okay. Mainly because I was an HR girl. That was going to be my thing. I was going to be a COO of a community hospital. And so I got into HR, human resources, because I understood, and I still believe to this day, humans are the greatest resources in this world. And now I understand why I feel that way. And you can disagree, but I'm just saying, hopefully by the end, you understand that, wait, humans, we have the ability to uplift, to help heal, to tear down, to harm, to disappoint, right? That we need to understand how the workplace has an impact on our entire well-being. A lot of us spend more time at work than we do in our homes. Let that sit for a second. A lot of us spend a lot of time in the workplace. Even if we work from home, we're engaging with work more than we are with all the other things, right? And so there's another presentation that I go into. That is what I dive into, the often missed step. So we can help curate this. How do we care for our personal well-being in a very specific way? This one is going to be an overarching understanding of our nervous system and the need for connection. And so here we go into neuroscience much more deeply. Our brains are a social brain. Our brains expect to be close to others. Now, if I work in a place that's like, we ain't got to be friends. We ain't, I just come and do my work. What atmosphere, what culture are we creating? We expect, whenever we're around humans, our bodies, we think that we're thinking brains. Dr. Michael does a better job to explain this, but we think that we're thinking brains. But long before thinking and executive function comes online, we got a whole lot of other stuff going on in our nervous system. My therapist called it spidey senses. We got all this other stuff that's not connecting to the words, to the expressing. So there are times that you might have heard someone, or you might be like I cannot find the words. Okay. And so I just want you to just keep in mind that we are hardwired for connection. And this is, you see all this beautifulness? So when I mentioned earlier about my family and the disease, this bottom portion, I hope you can see my arrow. This is called the cerebellum, and then this is the spine here. And this is what's being affected. So all this stuff around it is being affected through ataxia. It means that it's shrinking. And so our brains are wired to connect with others. And these connections, again, I'm letting this image sit for a second because all this is happening inside of you all the time. A healthy, developing brain has all this activity all the time, even when we're sleeping. And technology is just, I don't even think it's going to catch up, just starting to catch up with the ability to see and understand. We have a new part of the autonomic nervous system called the enteric over the last few years, which is the gut system. We are just finding out about this gut-heart-brain connection. So again, technology is starting to allow us to grow in this. So really quickly, the brain is a situated organ. Yes, it's actually situated inside of our skull, but it's situated in the environment that we're around. When we have a baby, we can't talk about trauma-informed care workplace without thinking about the youngest of you. You were a baby. You were a child. And so when we talk about that, we have to think about this. You see these arrows. The baby is looking, maybe making some sounds, and then there's a caregiver. There's someone who's giving that response. So it is a situated organ in that it develops. That's what these panels are. It develops based on the situation, the engagement that we have. This last panel is not more neurons. So this one is showing neurons as little seeds. And then they're growing into little seedlings, and then they're becoming big oak trees. And this continues throughout lifetime. Okay? And last panel is not more neurons. It is the growth of these little seeds. And so we have, throughout our life, babies are looking for that oxytocin, that concern, that situation, that connection. So you have the stress, like when a baby is crying, you got the stress response happening, you got the stress reaction happening in our nervous system, and it is expecting us as humans, we expect for then the oxytocin, which is out of this world, what it can do, I'm not a neuroscientist. I don't even play one, but I get to share what I'm learning about neuroscience and neurobiology. But isn't this amazing that we have a baby crying and the stress system is responding, and the human, as a human, was online in a baby, is also the expectation that, oh, a caregiver is going to show up. That oxytocin is going to be released to help me. And so when you have that baby crying, upset, in need, hungry, all these things, and a caregiver shows up, we got all this goodness that happens. So that caregiver shows up, and look at the wondrous things that happens inside of that little human. It shuts off the nervous system activation, and it goes through this whole journey, and the parasympathetic system is activated. No matter how old we get, connection is necessary for our health and well-being. We as a species, we come into the world dependent on the caregiver. And we tend to think, oh, you 18, now you, what? Independent. That's how we have lived. Why is trauma-informed care workplace? Why is trauma-informed? Why is self-healing communities movement so important? Is because we created a society that said you should be able to. When you get certain age, you should be able to. And like go off and create a world of your own, right? And we even have these expectations for little kiddos. So we have to destroy this phallus. We move from dependent to interdependence. We need one another throughout our lifetime. This beautiful word is a new vocabulary word. I just knew about synchrony, but my neuroscience friends and staff had to help me out. The full phrase is biobehavioral synchrony. I know y'all like them words just flow off. Not at first. I had to practice. The coordination of biological and behavior in children, we talk about the serve and return. In adults, it's this biobehavior synchrony. It's throughout our lifetime, okay? And so if you look, we start off with the caregiver and child, right? Even sometimes when we have kiddos that are this size, when we talk about protective factors, that eye-to-eye contact with an older adult, let's talk about this. An older adult nervous system to a younger adult nervous system, that eye-to-eye contact, that slowing down, that not rushing. I think about some things I would have done differently. You know, these expectations we put on kiddos. And we say all the time, the brain is not fully developed until you're 25 and 27 sometimes, right? But do we actually engage with other nervous systems? Us who are past the 25, the 27, do we engage with them? Beautiful. I have a ton of grown sweeties. One of my grown sweeties was with me yesterday and was telling me about some situations. And because of this, I'm able to understand that I am a protective factor and my nervous system, how I respond. So I have to work on. I'm doing really good, not judging, being present, right? So then we have here friends, protective factors, that biobehavioral synchrony. And also in romantic relationships, we synchronize our chemistry, our heartbeat, all these different things. well, I won't say that. I'll have that conversation for another day. But just know I'm the middle of 5 girls. And when I would come home from college, there are certain things that would happen on a monthly cycle that all of a sudden we in rhythm if we're home together for a while, okay? And so now think about this. Everything I just said, everything on this slide, and now think about the workplace. Am I saying that the people in your workplace need to be your friends? What I am saying is that self-healing communities and trauma-informed care organization is all about whether I'm your friend or not, I care. You're important. You're valuable. You've gone through a whole life. You got a whole story that I don't know nothing about, and I want to honor it. I got to present in Maryville last week, and I was telling them, I don't even argue anymore. Now I get upset, and I might call my girlfriends or guy friends and say a couple of things when I get my space and time, but in the presence of another person who might be up in arms, I'm always thinking about, ooh, that's a lot going on inside of them. And so just like that little kiddo, that little baby, that when that caregiver showed up, and the oxytocin could be released, and the nervous system can go from, right, the fight, flight, freeze response into the parasympathetic, the rest and digest response. So does it happen in the workplace? A lot of times I've met with youth workers, I've met with CEOs and presidents and boards, and the way they talk about us wonderful youth workers, like we robots. There's so much capitalism steeped in everything that we do that it's like, just get the job done. But I need you to show up and care for the participants. I need you to care for all of the activities that you have going on. But don't worry about the money. Don't worry about the stress. Don't worry about all the things you might be facing at home. But wait a minute. Guess what, y'all? The trauma-informed workplace, it can help release oxytocin. Just like in a workplace, I don't know about you, but I know I have experienced this for me. I've been in workplaces that I've said, even if you're making this decision, I'm talking about some personal things I face, even if this is the decision that you landed on, why do it that way? Why communicate with me in that style? It's not about the decision. Oftentimes it's about, do you honor me for who I am? And so there have been some times that I've been treated in the ways that kept that nervous system reaction going for so long that I had to learn how to do some trauma therapy. And that's a story for a whole nother day. But here's the thing, you all get to create workplaces that people want to come, volunteers. I have left the University of Notre Dame in the role that I was playing in 2018. I still got mamas, aunties, grandmas, students reaching out, young people who are in my program telling me about how when they were in an interview, they remembered when I had this program that was teaching them how to learn about different careers. And just remembering helped them take a breath in that interview. I got stories that creating the workspace, the workplace, the center, the community, we used to call it the RCLC way. And it was how I created this space. And I didn't know the science about it, but guess what I knew? I had a mama who didn't play. And I said, you know what? I was the middle of 5 girls growing up in inner city Detroit. And I would ask her, why didn't you let us do this? Or why didn't you let us do that? Even with church. And she had some good answers. And when I got hired, I said, you know what? I want to create a place and a space that my mother would have trusted. Now, I didn't have the science, y'all, but I knew I had to create safety. And now I know the science, what it was creating in that space, okay? So again, trauma-informed care workplace is critical to the well-being of communities, of humans. Every one of us are a part of many communities. So we need each other. Social support is a biological necessity, not an option. We all are facing hard things. For resilience to emerge, hardship must be coupled with strong support systems. Is your workplace a strong support system? I'm going to run through this really fast. We are coming up to the final edits. Whenever you see our logo, you know that it has been approved by Dr. Nancy Michael. My team has researched it for many, many years. And then it has to get past me, the non-scientist, like, ain't nobody gonna understand that. And so we will be releasing our volume 2 of our Self-Healing Communities Collective Manual. Inside of the manual, you will have vocabulary words. So when you create a movement, you need language. So trauma-informed care workplace, you gotta like take yourself to school. You gotta learn some vocabulary. So we have the common language definition, and then we have the NEAR-P science definition. NEAR-P stands for neuroscience, epigenetics, the research of adverse childhood experiences, the the science of resilience, and then the P has a double beautiful hit of protective factors and the positive childhood experiences research. I added this to the slide so that you can reflect on it as an organization, take a look at it later. Then when we talk about trauma, there is the 3 E's: the event, the experience, and the effect. There are events that happen to me as a family. Me and my sisters have different ACE scores. Yes, same mother and father, same upbringing. But my age was different at certain situations that I was able to understand things that my little sister could not understand. So the impact, the effect was different. Same issue, same incident. Okay, our upbringings have an impact. So really quickly, when we talk about building a self-healing communities movement, coming from a strength base, so your community that you're in, you want to elevate as an organization. What are your strengths? Your individual strengths, your organizational strengths, right? And also, what does it mean to become trauma-informed care? We talked about this earlier. It is a journey. But as I put these things in place and we have those protective factors flowing, the greatest protective factor, the protective factor that Self-Healing Communities focuses on is human connection. Do you have 1 to 2 or more trusted, caring adults? And not adults who have an answer to your situation, just people who can show up for you. There have been many times, happened the other day, my family is going through some stuff. And I have a girlfriend, my bestie, who was concerned about me. We don't always talk on the phone, but she was like, I need to hear your voice. I'm seeing all the stuff you do. I'm seeing all the stuff you're doing, all the things you're doing, all the things that you are jamming in. But how are you? We got on the call, and next thing you know, we both crying. I do this other thing called, I go over, it's called the Tiny Survival Guide, and it has all these things to help you metabolize stress. One of the things that's not on there is crying. Just like we need to metabolize food, we got to metabolize stress, right? And so tears, and new research has come out about tears. You might want to check that out. It's really amazing. And so when we have all these things functioning, that's how we have resilience. So when you think about a trauma-informed care workplace as a retention strategy, can a human come and thrive, develop, grow, and become resilient, regardless of what they have gone through in life? A lot of us who decide to do youth work, to be in this space, we have gone through some stuff, or we have seen some stuff. We care deeply. And a lot of us, depending on how we have been treated and the traumas we've gone through, some of us have become disenchanted with the work that we are committed to. When I left in 2018, y'all, I'm so glad I just obeyed. It came to me in prayer and some personal reflection and in therapy that I needed to make a transition. When I finally made the transition, I finally would have space to realize, oh, your girl, me, was burnt out. Didn't even know it. I didn't have the space or the time to even realize it. Are we creating spaces and time to realize where we are? You can't create a trauma-informed care workplace by neglecting yourself. And it's not easy. I have the privilege of working with the Bauer Center in Lafayette. They are amazing. If any of them are on the call, just taking them on this journey. And I tell them all the time, I said, listen, caring for yourself. Now, look, y'all, a lot of people are burnt out. Maybe all of you in the organization, but y'all all can't take a break at the same time. Sometimes just knowing a break is coming can help your nervous system. So again, you got to build some strategies in. Here's the myth. Resilience comes from the absence of stress. Not true. Resilience arises through the building of both individual and social capacity. Self-healing community is a capacity building movement. And it is practiced in the face of stress and healthy support systems. You cannot be resilient in the absence of relationships. We need one another to practice relationship, to practice resilience. Resilience, we use this slide where we actually talk about that hardship is that bouncing down. And that resilience, we have this in our children's book in partnership. Shout out to the ACES Indiana Coalition. That bouncing up is our resilience. Okay? And so communities, I love this because the more supports we have, the greater our bounce. Our nervous systems, when we have those near P resources, and a lot of people, they got the cards, they have them, I give them out like they candy, y'all. It costs us money, but I give them out because you have to practice it. Having the card, remember, this cannot be information transfer. It has to be lived. You have to share this. You have to talk about it. A neuroscience term that I love is integration. We change by the slow integration of the knowledge and the practices that we are discussing today. So having those support systems, that underneath, that's your community. That could be your workplace. Put those pictures in there. And are you creating that bounce for people? Hardships is going to come. It's part of life, y'all. But what bounce are you creating in your workplace? So again, looking at this journey, in light of what you have heard today around your nervous system and the other nervous systems coming in and out, in and out, in and out, all them walking, talking nervous systems. Are you able to create a culture, environment that is safe, trusting, and welcoming for everyone? Again, you got a lot of organizations like, we are trauma informed for the care of our participants, for the people we serve. But man, some of the decisions that I have seen youth working agencies do, whoo, hurts my heart. I won't stay there too long. By being a present to the people in your organization, in your trauma-informed care workplace, in your family, in your communities, when you walking past people in the park, at the grocery store, at the gas station, all of our interactions are helping to heal or harm other nervous systems. We need one another, y'all. So I love this picture we have, because remember the slides that had the little seedlings and then they blossom. We love this brain so you can think about what it means, okay, to have an impact on other nervous systems. And I want to honor that some of you on this call have hurting nervous systems by people that you work with, people you go to church with, people you're in family with. These are strangers. I hope that you will give yourself the gift of caring for your nervous system. We have a breath card that I'll share the PDF of. We have our 6 tips. It's on our website. We have lots of different things. We have videos, and I hope that you will take out time, get some therapy, sit, hug your pup, hug your family member, take out time to care for your nervous system. So every act of compassion, kindness, and grace extended to another person or yourself can help heal and protect the brain. And I love throwing in there to yourself. There are some harms that we've endured from us. Y'all, I was a hard taskmaster. And it was because I learned. I was that with myself. I was tough, y'all. I made some changes. Every positive act creates a healthy and resilient nervous system. Positive interactions and experiences are required to form a flourishing brain. So when we talk about a trauma-informed care workplace, we're talking about creating places and spaces that people, all of us, can flourish. And so that is the end of my presentation. I wanted to have time for questions. This is, again, the QR code to our website. And yeah, that's my email address. And I'm going to leave it up to Whitney. I see a hand raised, and
Yes.
yeah.
If there is a question, please put it in the Q&A or even the chat so that I can read them out for Vashana. And while we're waiting, I do have a question here. What is a good first step to develop and or assess if your organization is trauma-informed care?
So I'm going to give you the non-technical answer. There is, when we did our trauma-informed care trainings, and which will come back around in relationship with the Beacon Health System, we hope to have some offerings via Zoom. There's much more technical, okay? I'm going to tell you the life application assessment. A simple survey that people can feel safe and honest, anonymous. I have done it with a Google Doc with students to assess myself. How are y'all feeling? Old school, ask questions, meet with people, talk with them, see where it is. Okay, so that's just the how do you hear from other folks. The other piece of this would take a pause and really look at the slides. When I release the manual, and you can start looking at the vocabulary, looking at, wait a minute, trauma-informed workplace does not creates an environment that does not repeat harms, does not repeat trauma. Okay, wait. What is trauma? So trauma is, another word, toxic stress. And we know, sorry, I'm going to go back. Please forgive me with moving so quickly. We know that when we talk about toxic stress, that prolonged states in this fight, flight, freeze world creates poor health. So forgive me for going through all those slides to get back to this, but listen, all this activation here, you got to think about that. So that's the first step. Like, you gotta like learn the understanding of it so that you can know uniquely what does it mean to create a trauma-informed care workplace for my people, for my community. So those are the first two. Lots of other things I could share, but yeah, hope that was helpful.
All right, I have another question that Came in from Amanda. Do you have any suggestions or ideas to create trauma-informed schools, a starting point for presentations, activities, ideas for staff?
Absolutely. So, if you haven't, whoever asked that question, if you haven't, there is a trauma-informed care school manual. When I was helping an organization try to develop a community school, I did tons and tons of workshops and lessons and all these different things. And that was before I was doing this work, but a lot of it is steeped in the care of this. When you start, you have to start with ACEs. There are people who do not understand ACEs, and the way that we talk about ACEs in combination with self-healing communities also adds the hope. The hope is the positive childhood experiences research. So coupling, we call it PACES, PACES, coupling the research of positive childhood experiences and adverse childhood experiences, building that awareness. Remember, the trauma-informed care journey must start with individual awareness and moving into sensitivity. Why should I care? How do I show up as if I care? So it is a journey. Listen, self-healing communities is a 20-year journey. I get to lead a movement that gets to slow pace, that gets to honor the time it takes to actually learn and implement. So you can do them simultaneously. You can be learning, building knowledge and skills, and transforming a space and a place. But that takes some great execution and thought about where people are. People think you can mandate trauma-informed care. Yeah, did you not hear all this stuff? How you gonna mandate healing? That's not how it works. I hope that was helpful.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Dalshana, for an amazing presentation. I know that I have taken a ton away myself. Let me show my screen here.
You're muted.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Roshana, for a wonderful presentation. I know that I have taken a ton of notes myself, really appreciate it. And then changing gears, I want to talk about a new IYI event that we have coming up. Join us for the 2025 National Summit on Youth Wellbeing. It's a virtual summit hosted by Indiana Youth Institute, and it's all about tackling the big challenges facing today's youth. We're zeroing in on the kids who often get overlooked, those from low-income families, communities of color, immigrant backgrounds, and kids who've been through challenges like trauma or neglect. This summit brings together expert speakers from across the country to share their knowledge and give you real-world strategies to make a difference. If you're passionate about creating spaces where kids can thrive, this summit is for you. So you're the perfect audience to be a part of this summit. Also, please don't forget to register for a Youth Worker Cafe in your region. All of IYI's upcoming events can be found at IYI.org/events. And to receive the latest updates and opportunities by signing up for our newsletter at www.iyi.org/newsletters. As we conclude, I sincerely thank you for being with us today. We appreciate your impact, voice, and choice to learn and partner with IYI. Later today, you will receive an email that includes a copy of the presentation and a link to complete an evaluation of this webinar. Please take a few minutes to let us know what you thought about today's presentation. Upon completion, you will be redirected to your certificate of completion. If you don't receive the evaluation email, check your junk as it may have been directed there. This concludes our presentation, and on behalf of Indiana's youth, thank you again for showing up today and every day for Indiana youth. Have a great afternoon.